It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day to be neighbors. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? I have always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood. You know how when you haven't done a video in so long, it's just like, oh shit. Okay. Forgot to get the book. Okay. Here it is. Okay, what's up, YouTube? It's been so long since I've done a video, and I decided that, hold on, my little Rotan joint is not doing what it, okay, there it is. I decided I wanted to, if you noticed something, I've been rebuilding. Wait a minute, maybe I should back up and just tell you guys who I am. I'm Brett Bonner, BT Bonner to some, Brett Bonner to others, old dirty bastard to some perhaps. I don't know. But I am an avid reader, and I create a lot of videos. I've gone full circle, man. You know, I have a little bit of everything for everyone. So check out some other videos. But today specifically, I am circling back around to reading because I've been doing so much of it. And I figure I'll start with this novel by Albert French called Billy, which is a classic. I read this novel many, many years ago, and I was so affected by it. And over the course of time, I lost the book. So I decided, when I just kind of went back on my reading journey and decided to really get back into reading, mostly because of social media burnout. I was just like, you know what? If I want some shit that's not real, I can find it in a book and enjoy it a lot more than I do scrolling through social media. And plus, I love books, and I'm writing one right now. I won't get into details of that. But Albert French, let's get into this book. It was written in 1993 by Albert French. It was his first novel. Claude Brown, the author of Man-Child and the Promised Land, he said, although I only knew Billy Lee Turner for an all too brief 214 pages, I will mourn his death for the rest of my life. How powerful is that? Okay, so if you look into the eyes of this boy, you just see sadness, you see pain, you see mischief, and you know, it's a very touching story. It was like 1939 in Baines County, Mississippi. That's the setting for the story. Baines County, Mississippi, 1939. So, you know, that there was a lot of racial tension back then. You could literally be hung back then. Not to say that you can't be hung now, but you could literally be hung back then. So he chose a setting that was kind of a generation post-slavery, but still at a time when Black and white people were definitely on two sides of a spectrum. I love this novel, and a lot of people did as well. It actually won a book award in 1993. But what I found interesting while I was doing a little bit of research was that this novel came out at the same time Ernest Gaines' novel, A Lesson Before Dying, came out. They came out in the same year. I believe both books won Book Choice Awards, but I think Ernest Gaines' novel, A Lesson Before Dying, was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize for fiction the next year, if I'm not mistaken, the next year. So I thought that was interesting because I have read both of these books, and I wonder, and the similarities between the two is, this is the story of Billy Lee Turner. He's a 10-year-old boy who was convicted of murder and sentenced to be executed. Put to death by electrocution, yeah. And A Lesson Before Dying, you remember the movie, Don Cheadle was in it, Mekhi Phifer was in it. I believe they won an Emmy for it as well. So both of these books have similar things because in Lesson Before Dying, Jefferson, who was actually, I believe he was 18. So he was definitely considered an adult. He was convicted of murder. I won't go into too many details, but in the very beginning of that book, Jefferson is on his way fishing. Two of his friends pick him up. They drive to a nearby store. The two men that picked him up didn't have any money, but they figured that they'd beg the shop owner for a little bit of liquor until they got paid, to harvest or something like that. And he said no, and it got really, really tense. And before you know it, the guy pulls out a gun. They end up having a shootout. Everyone ends up dead except for Jefferson. So he's like, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this is happening to me. He had no intention of doing anything to anyone. Poor Jefferson. But he was basically in the wrong place at the wrong time. But he eventually, since no one else is around, he was like, man, let me go see what's in the register, So he goes, and as soon as he puts his hand in the register, here come the white man. So jail, convicted, he was charged with the death of the shop owner, and he ain't killed nobody, but, in commission of a crime, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. So, of course, what he had to say back in those days didn't matter because it was pretty much around the same time frame. Definitely a novel that's worth the read. Matter of fact, I have a couple of Albert French books. I have Holly, which was his second novel. What I did love about, look at these. Both of these are hardcovers, and you see the way that he kept with the kind of black and white thing, So the covers were very, very similar, and I did read Holly. Holly was literally, Billy defined Albert French's voice as an author. And I feel that Holly just literally continued that voice and the same pain, it was painful, But one thing I did notice was that in every book that I've seen so far that followed Billy, the first thing that was mentioned was Billy. I believe that because it was such a success, I believe that it was the publisher's intent to draw on the success from his first novel. But his second novel was Holly, which is terrifying, and it kind of received mixed reviews, and it was a little bit longer, and the story developed a little slower, and they didn't bring in one of the principal characters, which was the black man. Didn't bring that principal character in until late in the novel, and I think a lot of critics just felt like it rushed through his, or downplayed his role in the novel when writing it. I think that he should have been introduced sooner, but I understood where Albert French was coming from, because he wanted to lay a solid groundwork of who Holly was. So very, very important to note. So this is another good book you want to pick up. I haven't read I Can't Wait on God yet. I haven't read this book yet. I'm really looking forward to it. But then again, this is his third novel, and he puts, and right at the bottom it says author of Billy. Holly's book, of course, it says a novel by the author of Billy. So Billy keeps coming up because I believe that Billy was probably his most successful work. Again, he has another two books. He has another book that didn't receive much recognition called Cinder. And Cinder was Billy's mother, so that was kind of a follow up to Billy. I don't think it was written till later. Let me see. I don't believe that it was written until later. Okay, so this I was wrong. I Can't Wait on God was Albert French's fourth novel. It went in order: Billy, Holly, then Patches of Fire, A Story of War and Redemption. That was Albert French was a Marine, and he was in Vietnam. And I think that this book plays off of the racism and the racial tension and the stories of things that happened while he was in Vietnam. So that would mean that I believe he's written five novels. So Albert French's fourth novel would have probably been Cinder, which is hard to find. It was literally out of stock when I looked for it. But Cinder was Billy's mother, who was not a primary character, but she did appear, and the parts that she was in, of course, by this being her son, was very dramatic, and she was very heroic in her attempts to save her son from getting electrocuted because he didn't do it. He did. He committed the crime. He murdered her, but it was an accident. I believe that is part of what makes it so sad. And not only was it an accident, he was provoked in some of the worst ways, for a child. So I won't go into details of that, but I definitely suggest you, if you do have an opportunity, you probably will have to dig a little bit to find to find Billy. And if not, you can probably order it online for just a few dollars. I purchased this copy, which I will not get rid of. It was originally 1993 was $19. Wow. I think I paid $4 for it because I wanted a hardcover because I'm kind of feeling it. But I know that my original purchase was for was a paperback. So yeah, there it is, Billy, and that's my review on the book Billy. If I was rating this book, I would give it 5 stars because it's nonstop. It's one of those books that you will read if you have the time, of course, in a day, no more than 2 days. I guarantee it. And there are no lags in the story. I think that's why this book got so much attention, because there were no lags in this book. You know how you have to build me up, oh, look at baby, just let me know, and then the rise and fall. You have to gradually build up to the climax of the story, and then you reach the climax, and then it lows just a little bit, and then it just catapults to a dramatic ending. And in this case, of course the ending was terrible, because exactly from the beginning of the book, you just know what's going to happen. But Albert French, he was very, very masterful, and he intentionally ripped your heart out with this novel. So if you don't know Albert French, please check him out. He was a Marine. He was a self-taught photojournalist. He even the Pittsburgh Review, I believe it was he published a magazine. I think it was the Pittsburgh Review, magazine. I know that it ran for a few years, and around 1988, I think it folded. If my memory serves me correct, but he was a self-taught photojournalist, and then he said, "I'm going to write a book." And another thing I found out about him reading his bio was that John Edgar Wideman, who pretty much writes in the same style. I have Ernest Gaines, Gathering of Old Men. I need to read that. Here it is. Brothers and Keepers, John Edgar Wideman, which I have yet to read. But all I see is this jail, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. I'm definitely looking forward to that. But John Edgar Wideman actually did a review. He said a few words about Billy. He said, rich, uncluttered, containing echoes of Zora Neale Hurston's vernacular lyricism, Richard Wright's stark naturalism, and the bardic narrator of Jean Toomer's Cain. Billy is the debut of a singular voice. What was interesting is that John Edgar Wideman, if the information that I researched is correct, he somehow his, I think Albert French was married his sister or became his brother-in-law. Yeah, that's what it was. John Edgar Wideman became his brother-in-law, and John Edgar Wideman actually introduced Albert French to his literary agent. And that's how he got on, and you gotta love that. I've yet to read Brothers and Keepers or anything by John Edgar Wideman because I didn't really know that I didn't know who he was. But what I do like to do, and this is a pro tip, I guess. I'm not a pro, but I like saying the words pro tip. What I do is I kind of look at like books that I really, really love. I like to look at who spoke about this book, who gave special acknowledgement, who gave their opinions on this book, who did reviews on this book. You can also look at who the book was dedicated to. Said it to his wife Judy. He did acknowledgments in the book, and you can kind of, and that's what I did. So that's how I saw John Edgar Wideman, and I was like, that's interesting. And then J. Edgar Hoover, John Edgar Wideman. Let me see who this guy is. So that's how I found out that he was a historical fiction author in the same vein. Okay, so that's it. I've read 2 of these 4 books. Billy and Holly have both been done. I'll do another review of Holly because I believe that I want to talk more about that book, but I'll do that in another video. But I've yet to read Albert French's I Can't Wait on God, which I do plan on reading, and Brothers and Keepers by John Edgar Wideman. And I have a bunch of books over here that I have yet to read, and I kind of like it that way, so I always have something to read. I started reading Mumia Abu Jamal's. I got a copy of Mumia Abu Jamal's Live from Death Row. If you don't know him, he was a radio personality and journalist in Philadelphia, sentenced to life. Why? Because in New Jersey, it was in Philly, I believe. It wasn't New Jersey. I think it was New Jersey. He was arrested, and You want to hear something crazy? I just flipped through that, and the introduction of Mumia Abu Jamal's novel "Live from Death Row," the introduction was John Edgar Wideman. So again, we run into John Edgar Wideman as and this was in 1995. The introduction, copyright 1995, John Edgar Wideman. So get that, and so now I really have to go back and do this and read this, but I know that Mumia Abu Jamal is he's a black journalist. He's a Black Panther, and I believe that the police were just beating his. He was a cab driver, and the police was beating his brother, and he rolled up on it, and scuffle ensued, and the cop gets shot, and the cop dies. He gets sentenced to death row. All hell breaks loose, and it started a movement, a movement for change and for justice. And I believe I don't remember what year his death. He got a lot of stays of execution. He didn't die. He had appeals. He had a lot of appeals, not stays of execution. He had a lot of appeals, and eventually it got commuted to a life sentence. But he does still do interviews, and he does still to this day have people fighting for his freedom. He is literally what I would call a political prisoner. And I don't want to get this confused, Mia Abu Jamal. That's an amazing coincidence, but I don't want to get that confused with another book. I'm just going off. This was really about Billy, I promise. About Aseta Shakur, who on the Jersey Turnpike, she was riding with another Panther, and of course they get stopped by the police, and the police ends up dead. So she literally had to go on a run. She escaped she lay in a hospital. She was close to death. She was handcuffed. She was getting beaten. All of these things were happening to her. And she finally escapes. Her name was Joanna Chesimard. Joanna Chesimard. She was a Black Panther, and she ended up having to flee to Cuba. And I do have her autobiography that I read I read this when it came out. So this had to have been. Yeah. No, I didn't read it when it came out because I really wasn't into books in the 80s, but this came out in 87. I think I read it in the 90s because in the 90s I was like super into reading. And the forward with the new forward by Angela Davis. So very, very good book. I love this cover. This is one of the best book covers that I've ever seen. I think it's so dope. I'll do a review on this as well. But isn't it amazing how John Edgar Wideman, you don't really know someone, and it's all of this history and how it was all tied together. So I think this made for a really, really interesting start to me producing more videos on books. But so with that being said, if you actually did watch this video to the end, if you enjoyed this video, please click the like button, consider subscribing to my channel, Brett Bonner Creates. And if you're not subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you're reading, and I will see you in the next video. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but I hope it's going to be really good. I'm looking at my time. It's like 27 minutes and 43 seconds, almost to 30 minutes. I think this thing is gonna cut off. Anybody knows how? This is a Canon M50. Does anyone know how to stop the 30-minute record time? Is there a way around that? I mean, I looked and did research, and I don't think that there's a way around that. So if you know how to get around it, please let me know. I'm Brett Bonner. I'm BT Bonner. I go by a lot of names, but those who know me know me. I'll see you in the next video. Cue the music. There's no music. There probably won't be any music. Probably won't edit this video at all. Here's hoping I don't have to edit this video at all, because it's not the thing. It's not the thing, bro. It's not the thing. I don't want to edit. I just want to load it. That's it. That's all I want to do. I don't want to do anything fancy. I don't want to put any lights, camera, and action in there. I may toss some music on there, because I have to do something, and I kind of like the soft music. So I'm going to do that is 28:55. So I have about a minute. Well, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.